By the time the four of us got to the beach, the sun was almost down. Tyler suggested we pitch tents and stay the night. Emma, Josh, and I thought it was a great idea. We'd been talking about camping for weeks, but work kept pushing things back. This time, we'd finally all taken time off. The ocean breeze was colder than expected. It was summer, sure, but once the sun dipped below the horizon, the damp chill made you want to crawl straight into a sleeping bag. We lit a small fire, roasted marshmallows, sipped the cheap beer we'd picked up at the supermarket, and listened to Tyler tell some story about almost drowning in high school. I knew he was just showing off, he always exaggerated. Around 9, we saw someone walking toward us from down the shoreline. A guy in a bright orange vest, the kind lifeguards or construction workers wear. He walked slowly, never taking his eyes off us. We stared back, no one saying a word. When he finally passed and disappeared into the dark, Josh whispered, "Did you guys see him smile?" I shook my head. Emma said he didn't smile, but that his face looked off. Tyler just shrugged. "Whoever he is, he's gone now, let it go." We kept chatting, finished the last of the beer, and eventually called it a night. The tents were pitched just behind the dunes, not a bad windbreak, but you could still hear the waves. I don't know how long I'd been asleep when I woke up. There was a sound outside, footsteps, slow and dragging, someone walking through wet sand. Sticky, heavy, sucking noises. I figured maybe Tyler had gotten up to pee, so I unzipped the tent and peeked out. Nothing, just the silver-lit beach and the dark tide rolling in. I lay back down, but the unease stuck with me. By morning, we were all awake except Tyler. He was gone. We searched 4 hours. Along the beach, in the rocky cliffs, up the narrow trails, no sign of him. And then we found them, a set of footprints in a patch of wet sand near the tents, bare feet, but not Tyler's. We knew they weren't right. They were too long, too narrow. The toes twisted sharply at the ends, almost pointed. We called the police, filed a report. They took our names, asked questions, did a sweep. Nothing turned up. Emma broke down crying. Josh looked hollow, like something had been scooped out of him. I didn't cry. I just turned around and looked back at where our tents had been. The tide had already come halfway up the beach. Even the footprints were gone. A week later, I got a letter in my mailbox. No return address, just a photo inside. It was a picture of us, me, Emma, Josh, and Tyler sitting by the campfire. The angle was from behind us, like someone had been standing right there when they took it. Judging by the light, it had to be from that night, after dark. But in the photo, there was a fifth person. Not the man in the orange vest. This one was different. He was standing behind us, wearing an old-fashioned suit. He didn't have a face. I burned the photo. I didn't tell Emma or Josh. 3 weeks later, I opened the fridge to grab a beer. There, tucked in the back corner of the bottom shelf, was the photo. The same one I had burned. Its edges were still scorched. We were all still there by the fire, but the fifth figure was closer now. His hand was resting on my shoulder. I emptied the fridge, shredded the photo in the garbage disposal, did everything I could to erase it. But that night, I dreamed of the beach again. I was back by the fire, alone. No one said a word, just the crackle of flames and the hush of the tide, rising and falling. In the dream, I was holding something tightly in my hand. When I woke up, my palm was wet. It smelled like salt and smoke. I tried texting them. Asked how they were doing. Got no replies. Eventually, I called Josh. He didn't answer. Just sent me one message. Don't talk about that night again. Emma blocked me completely. I went to her apartment. The landlord said she'd moved out, left no forwarding address. It's like we'd never gone to that beach at all. Like that night never happened. But I know we all remember. We're just too afraid to admit it. They're running from it. And I want to forget. But sometimes, I still smell that burnt, damp scent in my house, the smell of fire and seawater. Something broke that night. Snapped in all of us. And whatever it was, it's never coming back. We drove 4 hours to the coast for a dive trip. It was our first time doing something like that together. My girlfriend, Laura, had signed us up for the lesson, said she wanted to feel closer to the ocean, to know what it was like to have fish swim past her in silence. She's always loved nature. I just wanted to be with her. The wind was picking up that day. The instructor suggested we reschedule, but Laura wouldn't have it. "We're already here," she said. "Might as well make the dive." So it was the two of us and another couple, all geared up and heading into the water. The instructor swam ahead and signaled for us to stay within a set range. At first, I was nervous. That kind of deep, quiet always gets to me. But then I looked at Laura, she gave me an okay sign. Eyes wide behind her mask, and I started to relax. Underwater, everything felt muted. All I could hear were the soft bursts of our bubbles and the distant sound of fins kicking. We drifted deeper. The coral swayed beneath us. A few silver fish flickered past my shoulder like brief thoughts. Then Laura stopped. She froze in place, staring straight ahead. I swam to her and followed her gaze. At first, I didn't see anything. Then a face floated up from behind a rock formation on the seafloor. It was pressed against the stone, barely visible, warped by the water, but it was a face. A woman's face. Her eyes were wide open. Her mouth hung slack. Her hair drifted around her like seaweed. My heart was hammering. I reached out and grabbed Laura's arm. She didn't react, like she was hypnotized. I kicked up a cloud of sand and pulled her up with me. The instructor noticed and swam over, helping us to the surface. Back on shore, Laura was silent. Her skin had gone pale as bone. I asked her what she saw down there. "She was looking at me," she said. That night at the hotel, she started running a fever. She kept whispering that the woman was still down there, waiting. In her sleep, she kept crying out, "She's coming. She's coming." I stayed up all night, tried to take her to the hospital, but she wouldn't leave the room. Said she'd rather die than go. The next morning, I woke up and found her lying on the bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. She looked like she'd just been pulled out of the ocean, soaked to the skin. The sheets beneath her were damp. I asked her where she went. "I don't know," she said. "I just remember her smiling at me." She told me the smile wasn't scary. It felt familiar, like family. After that, she changed, barely spoke during the day. At night, she'd stand by the hotel window 4 hours, just watching the sea. I tried to talk her into leaving. She refused. Said she could still feel the woman in the water waiting for her, calling her, wanting her to come back down, just one more time. I was terrified she might actually do it. I stayed close to her, didn't let her out of my sight, 4 days. On the 6th day, she told me she wanted to go home. I drove her back to the apartment in the city. She said she needed to rest. No more diving, no more ocean, but I knew the truth. What we saw down there, it wasn't just some hallucination. I saw it too. That face, those eyes, that smile she gave Laura. It wasn't fear I felt. It was something else. It was a calling. Laura answered. I didn't. I moved into the little house by the sea on an overcast afternoon. The place wasn't new, but the location was perfect. Step outside, and you're on the beach. I was working on a manuscript, needed some quiet, needed a change of scenery. That first night, the wind was strong. The windows would slam shut on their own, and the sound of the waves outside felt like someone calling. I made myself a cup of tea and sat down at the desk. I was halfway through a sentence when I heard someone singing in the hallway, a soft, distant voice, like someone humming as they walked. I figured it was a neighbor with the music turned up to loud, but when I stepped outside, there was no one there. The next morning, I saw her while drinking coffee on the balcony. She was wearing a long white dress, walking slowly along the shoreline, her hair blown up in strands by the wind. She was barefoot, like the sand didn't bother her. I hadn't noticed her arrive. One moment I was sipping coffee. The next, she was already standing at the edge of the water. I watched her wade into the sea until the waves reached her knees. Then she just stood there motionless, as if waiting for someone. That night, she knocked on my door. Her voice was soft. "Do you have some water?" she asked. I handed her a bottle. She didn't step inside, just stood in the doorway and whispered, "Thank you." I didn't sleep well that night. I kept dreaming of her standing outside my window, watching me, and I knew I hadn't closed the curtains. On the third day, she showed up again. I asked where she lived. She smiled and said, "Nearby." She told me she used to come here all the time, back when it was quieter. When I asked her name, she said, "You can call me Lily." We started talking every day, sitting on the beach, listening to the tide. She always spoke slowly, like she was listening to her own echo. One time I accidentally touched her hand. It was cold like blood, no longer flowed through it. I didn't look into who she was. Not because I couldn't, but because I didn't want to. I was afraid that knowing too much would ruin whatever strange balance we had. As long as I didn't dig, she remained the woman who appeared by the sea, speaking gently and never fully real. I stopped going to her, but she still came to the beach. She never approached anyone else, just watched me, like she was waiting for something I never agreed to. One night, I stayed up late finishing a draft. When I woke the next morning, there was a glass of water sitting by my front door. My name was written in the sand beside it. These days, I rarely leave the house. The windows stay closed at all times, but I know she's still out there,